Yep. Biscayne Lawless pole.
About halfway between Tampa Bay and Miami lies Sebring, Florida, home of the site of the 12 Hours of Sebring in the IMSA series here at Sebring International Raceway. Formerly an airport, now a purpose-built racetrack, which has differing services throughout this course, providing drivers with interesting conditions to drive through this afternoon. Now, good afternoon and welcome to the Stam Studio Network. My name is Chris Roska. Alongside myself is Robert Mackay. Looking back at last week, Biscayne Lawless continuing his issues with keeping that 5 machine on track, having a big hit in that transition section between the purpose-built and the street circuit, as well as having multiple off-track trips at VIR. Michael Zygmunt won last week after Lucas Holler made an unscheduled pit stop to put extra fuel in the car. Now, if you're Lucas, how mad at you at yourself for that mistake last week, and how does it change how you approach this race?
I'd be extremely mad, right? If I was Lucas Haller, I would be very, very mad, right? Because you had the win, but you made the mistake, right? You made the mistakes that led to your loss. So I would be extremely mad at myself, but you cannot let that affect you. You have to put what happened in the past, and look on forward today to Sebring.
Absolutely. Now, Lucas Holler making that extra pit stop just didn't put enough fuel in the car in that initial pit stop, had to come back in a lap later and finish filling up that car. Now, in lighter news, Alexander Kjoller just absolute drive through the field last week, qualified 12th, ended up finishing 6th, made it all the way up to 3rd place. Now, if you're Lucas or Alexander Kjoller, you had that domination at VIR, then you had that drive through the field at Le Mans. How confident are you going into this race knowing that you have the speed to do basically whatever you want?
I'd be extremely confident, right? Especially with, as you said, having that mindset of that you can drive from the back to the front on almost any track. And especially since Sebring is a mix of a purpose-built racetrack and, well, a runway, right? But it's a mix, just like Le Mans is. So I would be extremely confident going into tonight's event.
Absolutely. Now, Biscayne Lawless with those off-track trips at VIR and that massive hit at Le Mans, how mad at you at yourself are you for those incidents, and how does that change how you approach this race?
I would be frustrated, right? Obviously, 2 weeks back to back, having these really bad finishes because of these incidents. I would not be happy with myself, right? I'll word it that way. Um I mean, you beat yourself up for it, right? I do it all the time when I make mistakes when I do racing. But obviously something has changed tonight as Biscayne Lawless put it on pole, but he's obviously putting what happened in the past, just like I've said a million times.
Absolutely. Biscayne Lawless putting himself on pole position, out qualifying that same Alexander Kjoller we were talking about earlier. Lucas Holler putting himself third. Jean McEwen, a new driver and a new team, starting fourth. Patrick Rick, that other new driver, starting fifth. Those two are teammates. Tim Reed, sixth. Timothy Park, seventh. Michael Zygmunt, last week's winner, starting eighth. John Jennings in ninth. Sam Bentley rounding out the top 10. Kevin Schmidtke qualifying 11th, and Matthew Sherwood rounding out the top dozen. Some notable drivers not racing. That Samuel Cruz finished second last week at the Mans is not here this race. Brady Woltman, the winner of the AM class last week, also not here. Lucan Breedlove, Sam Bentley, Sean Stam has an amazing opportunity down in Texas to help with a broadcast at one of his local dirt tracks. Amazing opportunity for him, but unfortunately it means he's not able to participate in tonight's event.
Now, Roscoe, who are you looking out for tonight? Obviously, we have some guys that usually run up at the front, like Kjoller and Holler. But you also have some wild cards like Biscayne Lawless. Who are you looking out for tonight?
I'm absolutely looking out for Biscayne Lawless, right? Having those issues that he had during the last couple races, and now just out qualifying everyone and proving to himself that the mistakes aren't what makes the driver, it's how well you can overcome those mistakes.
Now, I was going to say I'm looking out for Biscayne Lawless, but I don't want to say the same thing you said. So I'm going to be looking out for John Jennings in the 17, qualified P9. Last week at Le Mans, he finished P3 after starting P7. I think he's another wild card we have to look out for tonight.
Absolutely. And one other driver that I would say to look out for is that Lucan Breedlove qualified 20th, last place last week in Le Mans, drove all the way up to 14th, but unable to make tonight's event.
So we will not be looking out for him.
Absolutely. Now, Mackay, runway racing, completely different from purpose built, but with this mixture, how do you approach this race?
I would approach it the same way as you approach Le Mans, right? It it is a very old runway, right? It is not a they don't use it as far as my knowledge the one they race on. Um so treat it as a Le Mans style purpose-built racetrack, purpose-built and street circuit racetrack because in from personal experience that is how it races.
Absolutely. Now, Biscayne Lawless running a different scheme this week. He's running a memorial paint scheme to his mother's dog, who unfortunately had to be put down recently, and shouting out the Rocky Bridges charity that helped that cause with that, as well as other pet like um what's the word, issues, or
Disabilities.
yeah, as well as getting spayed and neutered and stuff like that. So big shout out to them, and glad to see Biscayne Lawless doing substantially better. Now, how much does that paint scheme change how you drive?
Oh, having that weight on you, right? It's a lot. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of nervous energy, right? But honestly, I have some confidence that Biscayne Lawless is gonna come out here and put on the clinic.
Absolutely. He's already qualified way better than he has previously. So I think Biscayne Lawless, this is his race to come out as we take a closer look at that paint scheme.
Beautiful, beautiful paint scheme. I absolutely love it.
Drivers making their way around this track, kind of feeling out how the car is going to handle under these slow conditions. And how do you test the car under pace laps and understand how it goes into working with the car at speed?
I'm gonna be completely honest. You don't, right? You can feel like the what I do under caution is you can feel the bumps in the track and all that. But driving at pace speed is 60 here. Driving at 60 miles an hour is very, very, very different than driving at full speed. So you can't really get a sense of how the car's going to handle, but you can get a sense of the track as the pace car pulls off. And we are green flag racing here at Sebring.
The green flag is out. The pace car into safety on pit road. And we're racing here at Sebring down towards turn one for the first time at speed. Oh,
Alexander
this hat
Kuhler and
on.
Biscayne Lawless battling into turn one. But Alexander Kuhler might get the advantage coming out of the corner. And he does. Alexander Kuhler, your new leader.
That
Almost said
took
Biscayne Lawless.
that took no time. Alexander Killer, going back to what happened 2 weeks ago at VIR, able to put himself back out in front in that Chevrolet Corvette. New car for Alexander Killer as well.
As Biscayne Lawless jumps to the outside, tries to find a hole, but it does not work well. He falls in suit behind Alexander Kuehler. Now, as you said with Alexander Kuehler in the Corvette, what is the advantage to using a different GT3 car to a different track? Because obviously, every car is different. This is not stock car racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Every car is different. Every car has different horsepower, different grip, different downforce levels. So you may want to use a more high-powered car with less downforce at a track that has longer straightaways and less turns. Somewhat similar to Monza in Italy. Now you may want more downforce and less horsepower at a track something like the Nordschleife, which has a lot of turns and really only one straightaway.
Yeah, personally, I just use the Ferrari 296 GT3. I am too poor to have a billion cars. But I know you have 3 cars, Roska. Do you change the car depending on the track, or is it kind of just whatever you feel like racing?
It's a lot more for me, whatever I feel like racing, but I also don't do GT3 racing as much, so I don't have as much experience in these cars as someone, say, Alexander Killer or Biscayne Loss, your leader, as
Whoa!
Travis Farmer goes around, almost able to keep it
Just
out of the tire barrier.
kisses the wall a little bit. He'll be okay. Rolls back under power. Don't see too much damage on that Porsche, as it looks like there's just a little scratch on the right rear.
This is the battle for 8th. This is Tim Reed and Michael Zygmunt, your race winner from last week, down one spot from where he qualified in 8th, Michael Zygmunt. Now, if you're Michael Zygmunt, you're down here in the middle of the pack. After winning last week, albeit getting it handed to you on a silver platter, but how
A win's
much
a
does
win.
that... Yeah, a win's a win. But how much does that change how you approach this race, knowing that you're already farther behind where you were last week?
Well, to be fair, Michael Zygmunt did qualify half decently, qualified second. So qualifying all the way back in middle of the pack and running in the middle of the pack definitely puts a sour taste in your mouth, right? You know that you can do better, as Le Mans and Sebring aren't a, they're a mix of a purposeful racetrack and a street-like course, but they're not identical, right?
Absolutely.
So I would be a little sour, a little disappointed, but I also push a little harder, which leads to more mistakes. So I'd keep an eye on a Michael Zygmunt tonight.
Absolutely. Gareth Earl, Brandon Mateo. This is the battle for 13th. Keep an eye on these two. These two, I don't know what to say. These two, they've been right on top of each other since the get-go of this race.
And
Now a little
another
bit gaps.
another group
Oh,
of people that have been right on.
Lucas Holler coming to spoil the party, chasing down Biscayne Lawless.
And Biscayne Lawless feeling the pressure from Lucas Haller, losing some time to Alexander Kjoller as they battle, as Lucas Haller dives down the inside and takes away second position. Biscayne Lawless now down to third.
Here comes Biscayne Lawless, crossover move, looking, doesn't quite get it done.
Now, if you were Biscayne Lawless, what would be going through your mind right now? Losing these two positions to Lucas Haller and Alexander Kjoller, and now feeling the pressure from Patrick Rich in the six.
Well, I'm also looking at that clock. You see 35 minutes left in this race. We're not even close towards the end of the race. Like, yes, there's that sweat of losing the spots, but they're not driving away. Well, let me rephrase that. Lucas Holler is not driving away. So you still have that position right in front of you, and you know that if Lucas Holler makes a mistake, you have that spot back.
Yes, and as you said, there are 35 minutes remaining, so even Alexander Kjoller can make a mistake, which is, albeit rare, right? He has not made a whole lot of mistakes these last 2 weeks that I've been in the booth, but who knows? Sebring is a different breed of a track. We could see a mistake out of Alexander Kjoller that allows either Lucas Haller or Biscayne Lawless to regain the lead.
Absolutely. These four drivers under a blanket. Now, Travis Farmer trying to take 15th spot away after that spin. Already catching back up to some traffic. That's Dan Fendick right in front of him.
Yes, and he is right on Dan Fendick's tail. He seemed to have a little bit of trouble in qualifying Dan Fendick, starting 16th down to 18th as Travis Farmer makes the pass on the outside, or is trying to. making the pass on the outside here, or the inside on the backstretch. But Dan Fendick had some trouble during qualifying and has dropped down a few positions. I wonder if maybe this isn't the best track for him.
I was Tyler Reed that's down 4 spots from the start. Dan Fendick's actually up 2 spots, up to 16th.
Oh, my bad.
Sam Bentley, Timothy Park. This might get tight. This is the battle for 6th. These 4 drivers under a blanket as well. And don't look now. Here's Michael Zygmunt, last week's winner. Oh, I got to pass. Biscayne Lawless falling even farther down to 4th. Patrick Rick finding a way around that 5 machine.
And as I'm looking back on the replay, it seems that we missed something on lap 1. I was looking at the scoring board, and I noticed that Matthew Sherwood started in 12th, but is a lap down in the pits. I'm looking back on the replay here. We totally missed this. Looks like turn 3 or 4, he touched the grass and actually looped it from P12. Definitely a disappointing finish for Matthew Sherwood. Figured to bring that up.
Absolutely. Hate to miss anything in the broadcast. I actually have the replay right here. This is what happened to Matthew Sherwood lap 1.
And it even looks like, looking back on the replay here, as he tries to get back on track, him and the 20 actually make contact right there. Oof.
That's the 20 of Ari Sitbon.
Definitely disappointing for Ari Sitbon and Matthew Sherwood.
Absolutely.
Definitely not how you want your race to start. Looks like Ari Sitbon took a fast repair and is luckily still on track. At the back of the pack, granted, but he still lives to see another day. As Alexander Kuehler, this looks like VIR all over again. We are only about five laps in, and he has already gained an at least 2.6 second lead as he gets a snap of oversteer coming out of the corner, but he saves it. Now, if you're Lucas Haller and you see that snap of oversteer, as John McClellan spins coming out of turn 4 or turn 5, caught me mid-question.
Ah, that's just the unpredictability of racing. Jean McCone, one of the new drivers, down 7 spots from where he qualified, looping it around turn 4.
I was about to ask you a question. All of a sudden, I see him spinning in the back, and I'm like, oh boy. So going back to what I was going to ask you, as Lucas Haller, because while Alexander Kuehler is pulling away, Lucas Haller can still see Alexander Kuehler. With that snap of oversteer, what would be going through your mind, seeing that he isn't as perfect as he's seemed at VIR?
There's the thought of he can make a mistake, push harder, you can catch him and capitalize on the mistake. But at the same time, you don't want to be the one that makes the mistake either.
Exactly. It is a tough game to play because you want to push, you want to be right on him, but you do not want to push too hard that you spin out, which what could have happened to the 91.
Absolutely. Biscayne Lawless falling even farther back, down to 6th now, trying to chase down Sam Bentley in that 37 machine.
Yeah, not a great start to Biscayne
Oh,
Lawless's
as he gets in the
day.
wall. Biscayne Lawless brushes the wall coming out of the final corner. And that's going to make him lose another spot. All the way down to, falling all the way down to 7th. That's Tim right around the outside.
Do you think the pressure is finally getting to him?
Absolutely.
Looking to see here if he has any damage. It doesn't look like it. Looks like it was just a little scrape. But still, that is a big blow to confidence, or at least it would be a big blow to confidence for me. What would that do to your confidence, Roska? If you're pushing hard, you started on pole, you're down to 7th, you were in 6th, you scraped the wall, you're in 7th, what would be going through your mind?
Man, I gotta stop pushing the car so hard. Which, albeit is one of, I've talked to Biscayne Lawless, that's one of his biggest issues is pushing the car too hard, not knowing when to hold back. And as an oval racer, that's 100% true. I have that same issue of just pushing the car too hard and basically pushing the car until it breaks, which is a great way to get the most out of your equipment, but it's also a phenomenal way to break your equipment week in and week out.
Exactly, and as you were talking about pushing it too hard, Alexander Kuehler makes again and has another snap of oversteer. Lucas Haller slowly inching his way to Kuehler. It looks like either the car is just not cooperating with him or he is making some mistakes. Lucas Haller, I'd be pretty happy right now seeing all these mistakes that Alexander Kuehler is doing with the snap of oversteers, whether that be from his input or just him fighting the car.
Absolutely. As we ride on board with Lucas Haller through the final corner onto the front straightaway. Just watch
Now,
Alexander Kuehler doesn't really drive away, just sitting there about a second and a half ahead.
Now, Roscoe, what does it feel like when you're fighting your equipment? Right? From my experience, that is the worst thing to happen. I can deal with a loose car. I can deal with a tight car. But when I'm fighting the car, it's not going to be a good day. So what is it like when you have to fight the car? Not necessarily, not necessarily when you can handle it, but when it's fighting back. It's fighting against the inputs you're putting in. It's fighting against how you're throwing it in the corner.
Well, that really changes how you have to drive the car. You have to basically let the car do what it wants sometimes to let it be able to let you be able to take control of the car in other situations. You kind of have to let the car do what it wants sometimes, which can lose you time, it can lose you grip, it can cost you the race, but you just have to know when to keep fighting the car and when to just let the car do what it wants.
Exactly, and that is the hard balance you have to find, especially in GT3 racing.
Absolutely.
As
Already
something I
already 14 minutes into this race, Alexander Kuehler out to an early lead from lap 1. Has been leading ever since, and we're about to get some lap traffic.
Something I didn't think I'd hear or see today is lap traffic. We didn't really see a lot of it at VIR and Le Mans, but here, Ari Sitbin, as he blinks, he was unfortunately involved in that first lap wreck as he lets Alexander Kuehler by. Good move, good sportsmanship out of Alexander, wow, I can't talk. Out of Ari Sitbin, moving out of the way. That is the proper thing to do. If I'm not mistaken, that is actually in the rules of GT3 racing. That is not how it is in oval racing, though, but good sportsmanship out of Ari Sitbin, letting Kuehler by.
Absolutely good sportsmanship, letting the leaders race it out, but contrary to what you said, that's only a rule in Formula 1, an open wheel series. In sports car racing, GT3s like this, lap cars, all they have to do is hold their line and be predictable. It is up to the leaders to make their way around the lap cars. Now, if you do something obvious, like obviously get out of the way well before the corner, you give the racing line up and you just hold your line, that is perfectly acceptable.
But you can be penalized if you don't move out of the way and are like intentionally blocking, correct?
It's a penalty for intentionally blocking. It is not a penalty for just holding your line. So you do not have to move out of the way. You just have to stay predictable. Hold your line and stick to it. Alexander Kuehler still out in the lead, but Lucas Haller not letting him get out of his sights. I'm getting Virginia International Raceway vibes out of this race.
I feel like this might be a Alexander Kuehler win here. Obviously, it is a little bit too early to be calling that, as we're not even halfway yet. But he is not pulling away from Lucas Haller the way he did at VIR. So I wonder if, as I look at the last lap times, Alexander Kuehler ran a 2 minute .148 lap. Lucas Haller ran a 2 minute .343 lap. So as Alexander Kuller is slightly faster, he is not pulling away the way we think, as my words are taken out of my mouth, as he just put, what, 7 tenths on Lucas Haller that lap. Definitely a great lap, as there's a 1:59.519 compared to Lucas Haller's 2 minute .225 second lap. So he is pulling away now.
Absolutely. The battle heating up between Biscayne Lawless and Tim Reed. This was your pole sitter for tonight's event. Biscayne Lawless managing to hold on to that 6th place spot.
He is fighting tooth and nail to hold on to position, trying to hunt down those other drivers. Do you think the pressure might get to him and he might make another mistake?
Absolutely. Watching Biscayne Lawless. Biscayne just pushing his equipment way farther than he realistically should, and that can come at a cost of wrecking yourself or someone else. As we're watching the battle, this is between Timothy Park and Sam Bentley, battle for 4th. These 4 or 5 drivers really under a blanket. Timothy Park, that was really close to a block. I don't know if I would have thrown that block.
Well, sometimes you make risks, sometimes they pay off, sometimes they don't. Obviously, this is a risk that paid off, but you never know. You want to be risky, but you don't want to be too risky. If you kind of put up, or if you're kind of picking up what I'm putting down.
Self-preservation.
If you're not risky, everyone's gonna pass you, right? If you don't make risky blocks, you're not a race car driver, right? If you're just letting everyone pass because you don't want to take the risk, then you're not racing. You're driving. But you can't be too risky. You see it a lot at super speedways on ovals, I think is the best example with really risky blocks. If you make a risky block, you wreck half of the field, right?
Absolutely.
So you want to be risky, but you can't be too risky.
Absolutely. This is Brandon Mateo, Gareth Earl, the fight for 11th spot. Kevin Schmidtke right behind.
And as I'm looking down the running order here, one catches my eye. We were looking at him earlier for the battle for 4th. Timothy Park, qualified 7th, is up to 4th. Another driver, Sam Bentley in P5, he qualified 10th. He is up to 5th, moving up 5 spots. What would be your mindset as Timothy Park and Sam Bentley? Starting not necessarily terrible and moving your way up, making 4 or 5 spots.
Absolutely. One of my thoughts is I've made up this many spots. Potentially I can make up more. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. Hopefully drivers in front of me make mistakes. These 4 or 5 drivers really under a blanket, and they have been since the get-go. Michael Zygmunt not really lighting up the charts after his win last week. Just hanging back here in 6th with 20 minutes left to go in this race.
Sometimes, honestly, you need a race where you finish, right? When I race, my teammates will always say to me, like, if I'm having a rough race, right, and I'm running towards the back, and I haven't had good finishes or even finishes, they'll go, sometimes you just need a race where you finish. And this could be that kind of race for Michael Zygmunt. Finishing in the top 10, helping with points, sometimes you just need those kind of races where you finish.
Absolutely. Now Biscayne Lawless getting pressure from the car behind. That's Tim Reed behind. Let's ride on board with Tim Reed. right up onto the back bumper of Biscayne Lawless. He's riding on board with Tim Reed, Michael Zygmunt just behind. If you're Tim Reed, you see these three drivers in front of you. What are your thoughts going through your mind?
Sit back, wait for them to make a mistake. Right? Now, obviously, he is sniffing the back bumper of Biscayne Lawless, right? So you're going to try to make a move on Biscayne Lawless, but as far as Sam Bentley, Tom Park, and Tom Park go, you're going to want for them to either make a mistake or start battling hard, because that is where you're going to gain position.
Absolutely. Riding on board through the back half of that racetrack. That is the purpose-built section of the track. And how does that differ from this runway that these drivers are on right now?
Well, the purpose-built racetrack is obviously going to have a lot more grip, right? It is built for racing. It is very, very grippy compared to the runway. So you got to be careful, especially during that transition period between the runway or street circuit, wherever you're racing, right? We
Yeah.
saw it last week at Le Mans, to the purpose-built racetrack. So you're going to go from a lot of grip to not as much grip, right? There's still grip in the runway, but it's not as much as the purpose-built racetrack.
Absolutely. Sean McCoo, Timothy Park already on pit road. Garrett Thurl, Brandon Mateo, and Cameron Foss all down pit road while we were riding on board with Tim Reed. These drivers already making their scheduled pit stop for tonight's event.
Now, what is the advantage to pitting early? Like, first of all, do you pit early when you do road racing? And what is the advantage when you pit earlier at a road course event like this?
Pitting earlier is very... Oh! Biscayne Lawless dive bomb. Sam Bentley. Tim Reed's going to be able to get around. Sam Bentley losing 2 spots in that kerfuffle of a corner. Biscayne Lawless back up to 4th position. Really interrupting me, but yeah, pitting early is more advantageous in road racing. You get fresher tires. You're able to navigate your way through the field and perform what's called an undercut. So you pit early. You have fresher tires. That way, when the driver that you're trying to pass comes out of pit road, they end up behind you, and you can basically play defense there.
As Tim Reed is absolutely all over the bumper of Biscayne Lawless.
Biscayne Lawless around!
No!
Able to keep it off the wall. Able to keep it mostly straight. What a save by Biscayne Lawless.
As he makes his pit stop. Tokyo drifted there for a minute.
This is... What a way to come to pit road. Spins it out. Crew chief telling him, yeah, come get 4 fresh tires right now. Dips it into pit road.
Somebody should tell him that we are in New York, not Tokyo. Did a little bit of Tokyo drifting there as he comes in for 4 fresh Michelin tires.
Alexander Kjoller still your race leader. 15 minutes left in tonight's event. Lucas Haller still trying to chase down. This is a repeat of what happened 2 weeks ago at VIR. Last week at Le Mans, Lucas Haller dominating the race. Michael Zygmunt able to take the win away after Lucas Haller had to make an unscheduled pit stop to finish fueling the car. Didn't quite put enough fuel in the car the first time he was in pit road. Had to come back in and ultimately lost the race.
Yes, I'm pretty sure he won't be making that same mistake again, considering that he basically lost the race because of that.
Absolutely. Managed to rebound his way up to 4th, so not quite too bad, but Biscayne Lawless and Jean McQuan is a battle for 10th.
Jean McClellan really making up positions after that early spin earlier in the race as he passes Biscayne Lawless, who's on fresher tires. Maybe there's a battle here.
Absolutely. Jean McCoon able to take the preferred line. Biscayne Lawless having to search his way around. Alexander Kjoller, Lucas Haller, Patrick Wright, Rich all coming down pit road. The battle heating up for 10th right here between Biscayne Lawless and John McCoon.
Yes, let's hope Lucas Holler puts enough fuel in the car this time.
Absolutely. Tim McReed, your race leader, still has yet to come down pit road. Michael Zygmunt, your race winner last week, also yet to come down pit road. Alexander Kuehler, when he comes out of pit road, will be your net leader. Your current race leader, yet to come down pit road. Here's a look at Alexander Kuehler in that Chevrolet Corvette ZL1.
Gorgeous, gorgeous car. Pretty paint scheme. Some of our other drivers have it on the field, as it is the Fendi Racing Team paint scheme. But God, I love the way that Corvette looks.
Absolutely. Tyler Reed coming in to make his scheduled pit stop for tonight's event. It's the battle between Biscayne Lawless and John McCoon heating up through turn 1.
As John McClung goes off track a little bit, put some dirt on the tires, so to speak. Unfortunately, that does not give you extra grip.
John Jennings, Sam Bentley. This is the battle for 6th. If you're one of these drivers sitting right behind a driver in front of you and you think you're faster, what are you thinking? Are you planning on how to get around? Or are you just in waiting mode right now? We only have 12 minutes left in the race, so the time to wait is dwindling.
It honestly depends on the situation, right? In a situation like this, I wouldn't just sit back and wait for them to make a mistake, but I also wouldn't be dive bombing every corner as a last hurrah, right? You only want to make a last hurrah if you absolutely have to. So, for example, in oval racing, if you are faster than the guy in first and you're coming through the last lap, you could dive bomb, you could dump them, right? That is what a last hurrah is. So you don't want to be doing that when you still have 11 minutes left. You just want to be sitting back and taking advantage of opportunities presented to you.
Yes, absolutely. Alexander Kuehler making his way back to the lead. Tim Reed, Michael Zygmunt making their scheduled pit stops. As Michael Zygmunt able to get out of pit road faster, he's able to jump a spot down pit road. He's able to come up to 4th.
Great pit stop by Michael Zygmunt there.
Take a look at Sam Bentley, John Jennings side by side. This is the battle for 7th. Or 6th, my bad. Sam Bentley able to take the spot away.
Great pass. Alexander Kuehler extending his lead out into the front. This is VIR all over again. Looks like Le Mans was just a fluke, and now we're back to our regular schedule programming.
Absolutely. Le Mans, just the commercial break. And now Alexander Kuehler back in business, dominating like we saw 2 weeks ago at Virginia International Raceway. Now, if you missed last week at Le Mans, Alexander Kuehler qualifying 12th, driving his way all the way up to 3rd, ended up finishing 6th. Not the day he wanted, but took the best, or did the best with what he was given with that 12th place qualifying. And Le Mans is a very difficult track. Kudos to Alexander Kuehler for being able to make up so many spots last week. How do you do that and still manage to come back to another track and dominate just a week later?
Be Alexander Kuehler. I
That
feel like that's
that is a great answer.
I feel like that's the best way to word it, right? It is rare for a driver to be able to do that. It takes a lot of raw skill, takes a lot of raw talent. It also shows his adversity, right? His resilience to be able to not only dominate 2 races on 2, as I should say, very different tracks, but to also be able to start at the back and work his way up to the front. I said it last week, at Le Mans, where he could dominate VIR and he could go from the back to the front at Le Mans. And this is just solidifying what I said last week with his absolute dominance.
Absolutely. Having multiple skill sets. Now, it's one thing to go out, lead laps, and just drive away from the field. That's just pure speed. It takes another completely different set of skills to make passes consistently and cleanly. And those two skills don't really work well, and it takes one amazing driver in Alexander Killer to be able to do both and excel in both.
Exactly. I know of a lot of drivers who are either very good up front, like if they qualify on pole, they'll pull away, but suck in traffic, or it's the other way around, where they're very good at working through traffic, but once they get up to the front, they're no match. It takes a special skill set in order to be a master at both, just like Alexander Kuehler is.
Absolutely. Now Tyler Reed, Gareth Earl, this battle heating up. This is the battle for 14th. Now if you're Tyler Reed, let's ride on board with Tyler Reed. You see these two drivers ahead. What are your thoughts going through? You only have 7 minutes left in the race. Time is ticking. Go.
Exactly. You want to pedal to the metal, push as hard as you can, because I mean, at this point, you've made it so far, right?
It's go time.
It is go time indeed.
Oh, car around. That's Travis Farmer.
Oh,
3 cars
as the
involved.
82 hits him. What happened there? All 3 Porsches.
All
Looks
3
like
of these
Rex
cars go
doesn't have a
around.
mouth anymore.
Let's watch this one more time.
Just
Keep an eye on that car ahead. Travis Farmer just gets loose. Nowhere to go for the other 2 drivers. 3-car
domino
incident.
effect.
Absolutely.
The 09 goes around. 82 has nowhere to go. 47 plows right into the back of him. Really unfortunate. 82 looks to seem got the worst of the damage, as he has no nose, or no mouth, I should say.
Tyler Reed still staying out on track. Gareth Earl, Travis Farmer coming down pit road to make repairs.
As Gareth Earl uses his fast repair and gets a new nose on, 4 tires. 4 Pirelli tires. I made the mistake of calling them Michelin, but they're Pirellis. And heading back on track. As quietly, we haven't really mentioned him for a hot minute, although we have been mentioning him all race. Alexander Kuehler is still extending his lead. What an absolutely dominant day, as we have just about 5 minutes left in the race.
Alexander Kuehler setting the fastest lap of tonight's event. 1 minute 59 second, 0.57 second lap time. Blistering speeds. Everyone else has fastest lap times that are over 2 minutes. Lucas Holler, Patrick Rich also having sub 2 minute lap times.
Well, that's even faster than the qualifying laps, which I find very, very rare. Great lap for Alexander Kuehler there, extending his lead even more, now over 7 seconds, to Lucas Holler.
Michael Zygmunt sitting 5th, your race winner last week. Now you won last race. You qualified decently, qualified 8th. You're running 5th. Are you really in push mode, or are you confident with just getting a good points day?
Push. Right. As I said earlier, a finish is a finish, but if you're in 5th and you're chasing down Tim Reed like he is right now, you're pushing. You want to make as many positions as you can. But as I've said a million times over the past few weeks, you do not want to push too hard, because if you do, that is where you make mistakes and you can lose more than what you can gain. Now,
Absolutely. Go on.
as Alexander Kuehler sitting here in P7th with an over 7-second lead, what would be your mindset? Right, we have about 3.5 minutes remaining. What would be your mindset?
Don't mess up. You right. You have that big. You have that big gap. You have that 8 minute or 8 minute. This is not Le Mans. 8 second lead over Lucas Haller. All you have to do is just make sure you don't make 8 seconds worth of mistakes and spins and off tracks. Just keep the car clean, keep the car on track, keep the car pointed in the right direction. As we have an incident, Patrick Rich, Gareth Earl around. We take a look. Let's replay. Gareth Earl just too hot into the corner. Patrick Rich too hot in the corner. Gareth Earl going around. Gareth Earl a lap car. Patrick Rich on the lead lap, running third. If you're Gareth Earl, you're a lap car, and then this happens to you, how mad do you get?
Extremely mad. I would be extremely mad at myself just because, you made all these mistakes and you don't want to make them again.
And then you have this lead lap car make a mistake, come tag you, spin you out. Just the what is it called? The sprinkles on top of an already bad day.
Very unfortunate. Now, another unfortunate day was Biscayne Lawless. Started on pole. Unfortunately, is now down to P10. Very unfortunate. Not the day he wanted. Not the day we wanted for him. He had two not so great races. It looked like this was going to be an absolutely great race for him. And he's unfortunately all the way down in P10.
Kudos to Biscayne Lawless. Still has yet to go off track once. Seeming to have fixed his issues of just over pushing the car, he's been able to keep this car pointing straight and pointing in the right direction. One minute left in tonight's event. You're looking at Alexander Kuehler, your race leader, your race winner from 2 weeks ago at VIR. Looking to take the Pro Series points away from Lucas Haller.
An absolute clinic, a masterclass. Sounds a lot like VIR. Clinic masterclass. What a performance by Alexander Kuehler here with under 40 seconds left. Last lap with an over 9-second, almost 10-second lead. What a race by Alexander Kuehler.
Absolutely. No better way to put it. Just took the lead away from Biscayne Lawless lap 1, just never looked back.
Which is exactly the day that I'm pretty sure he wanted, pretty sure the day that everybody wants. As we approach the final few corners of tonight's event here at Sebring, Alexander Kuehler with a 10.1 second lead over Lucas Haller, coming out of the last few corners onto the runway part of the track. What a masterclass. What a race.
The timer ticking 0. Next time Alexander Kuehler comes across the stripe, the checkered flag will be out. You watch him enter the final corner for the final time.
What a race. What a masterclass. Alexander Kuehler coming out of the final corner, flashing his lights, swerving.
Alexander Kuehler, your race winner here at Sebring International Raceway. Lucas Haller coming out of the second corner, able to come home in second position. Patrick Rich,
10.2 seconds behind, but
the new guy, comes home in third position. Tim Reed, Sam Bentley, Michael Zygmunt, your race winner last week. John Jennings and Timothy Park. Here comes Jean McQuan in ninth. Biscayne Lawless, your pole sitter, coming in at 10th.
What a race. A lot of passing, a lot of action. Great race.
Kevin Schmidtke in that iconic Ford Mustang GT3 comes out of the final corner for his last time. And he takes the stripe just outside of the top 10 and 11th. Brandon Mateo, Tyler Reed, Dan Fendick, Cameron Foss, and unfortunately not the day Travis Farmer wants, sitting in 16th.
Unfortunate day for him. Made some mistakes, but at the end of the day, a finish is a finish.
Tyler Reed through the last corner for the final time. Comes home 13th. Dan Fendick trying to chase him down. Finishes 14th. Comes Cameron Foss of that Mercedes AMG GT3. Finishing 15th, and Travis Farmer rounding out your finishers in 16th. Gareth Earl, Ari Sitbone, and Matthew Sherwood unable to finish tonight's event.
As obviously a little upset with himself, Travis Farmer slams the inside wall.
Absolutely. Alexander Kjol, your race winner. Now for some post-race interviews. Now, Mackay, Alexander Kjol, absolute phenomenal drive. How are you feeling if you were Alexander Kjol with just this absolute domination? Even knowing last week at VIR how much you struggled with dominating that race.
Oh, I'd be absolutely thrilled, right? Going to VIR, dominating, then having a less than ideal weekend for his standards at Le Mans, then coming back and putting on a clinic. I would be absolutely over the moon. And let's see what he thinks here momentarily.
Absolutely. Now, Lucas Haller dominates Le Mans, makes that extra pit stop to finish fueling the car, and then you just see this one slip through your fingers just like at VIR. How mad at yourself at that, or are you just getting dirty, grinding to go to the next race and see if you can finally put Alexander Kjol behind you at the finish line? Now, Patrick Rich, your first race here in IRPAS, and you come home in third position. Welcome to IRPAS, by the way.
Thanks, appreciate it. How you doing?
Well, the booth was AC, but I was sweating just watching you guys. But man, what an introduction of yourself to IRPAS. Coming home and finishing third behind two of our arguably most dominant drivers. How
Yeah.
pleased are you with that finish?
Um. Yeah, it was a fun race. Are these two related, Hauler and Joller? Those guys are fast, man. Definitely. Definitely P1 too for sure. It's a pretty good race. Had a couple of incidents. Unfortunately, I spun a back marker. I'm sorry about that. I wasn't sure who it was. I tried to apologize. And then I think I had a little contestant or a little bit of a contest of a possible disagreement with somebody. I think he thought I dive bombed him, but I feel like he left the door open. So, but we'll see if I get what you call
Uh,
it, disputed for that or not. So
yeah, absolutely. Alexander Kjol, VIR 2.0.
Yep, for sure.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on that? knowing you had last week with that less than stellar qualifying, still able to drive through the field, well, qualified 12th, finishing 6th, and then you come here and just dominate like you did at VIR.
I mean, I needed the points, so it was important to, really come back from the bad weekend at Le Mans. So yeah, really important just to get the P1 and the fastest lap to just hone in on Michael and Lucas. So it was a good race.
Absolutely. Flawless race from you. Just absolute clinic. Talk us through your thoughts on the grid, knowing that you weren't qualified first, and your thoughts on how you were going to set up that pass on Biscayne Lawless to take the lead.
Bit disappointed I couldn't get pole, but it is what it is. But basically I was just alongside him and got the better reaction and just tried to hold it on the outside, and it worked. So yeah, there wasn't really any thought process. It was just taking it as it like was coming. So
Pure reaction. Absolutely. Now,
yeah.
Biscayne Lawless on pole, finishes 10th overall, winning the AM Class Series. Biscayne, what a drive for you. Managed to keep it on track, surprisingly, based off of your issues the last couple weeks of keeping the car pointed on track and pointed the right direction.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I tried to keep it on track a lot more this week. I was dedicating this race to my mom and her dog Taco. Um, yeah, it was a good race. I should have took tires when I took pit. I think that cost me a bit of time. And yeah, there at the start, I just messed the start up and missed it a little bit. And uh, Colder, he got the jump on me, so I knew I wasn't going to be able to challenge him in the beginning there. So I just let him have it, try to race clean. But it was a really good race. I'm proud of my finish. Overall, P2 and AM class, so I'm happy with that.
P2 in AM class. Oh, Tim Reed's an AM class driver. Tim Reed, my mistake. You won the AM class, Biscayne Lawless. That's my mistake. Biscayne
That's all
Lawless
right.
finishing P2. Now, Tim Reed, 4th overall, just able to keep some of those pro drivers behind you, including last week's winner, Michael Zygmunt. Talk us through how that race went for you.
Yeah, it was fun. Obviously, first race here, I just wanted to keep it as clean as possible, which I think helped with fuel saving and tyre saving, which I think got me the win. So yeah, being conservative actually paid off.
Absolutely. It's knowing what times to be conservative, what times to push is the key to this race and racing in general. Kevin Schmidtke, welcome back up here. Second last week at Le Mans, finishing 3rd this week in the AM class. Are you trying to take Are you trying to take Shane Wells' spot at the top of the AM class points?
Well, I'm trying. I'm not sure if it's working, but it was a good time. And honestly, I mean, all I was trying to do this race was save some tires because, as the Mustang gets unloaded, you start losing it. So, and really, that's what happened to a lot of guys as the race came to an end. You could just tell that the tires were spent, but they were still trying to push. And I was just lucky I had some tire left and got a couple of spin out spots, and here I am.
Absolutely. That's the key to how you race, is just let everyone else make mistakes and let you capitalize, right?
Yeah, it's hard to this Mustang is a hard drive as it is, especially on a track like this. So, just got to keep it under control and not try to push it. Otherwise, you're just dead.
Absolutely. Running through the final finishing order one more time. Alexander Kjoller, your race winner. Lucas Haller, Patrick Rich coming 2nd and 3rd. Tim Reed, 4th overall, winning the AM class. Sam Bentley, Michael Zygmunt, last week's winner. John Jennings in 7th. That's Timothy Park in 8th. Biscayne Lawless 2nd. In the AM class, your pole sitter finishing 9th overall. Kevin Schmidtke, 10th, finishing 3rd in the AM class. Brandon Mateo, Jean McQuan, Tyler Reed, Dan Fendick. It's Cameron Foss, Travis Farmer, Gareth Earl, Ari Sitbone, and Matthew Sherwood not finished in the race. What a fantastic race by all you drivers. I'm looking forward to watching you all next week take on Road Atlanta here on the Stam Studio Network. Later tonight, I got to catch a flight up to Watkins Glen for the Bump and Run ARCA Series, their inaugural season, race number 4 at Watkins Glen, their only road course this season. Sean Stam unable to commentate that race. I'll be up in the booth. Good night. Tune in next time for the IRPAS on the Stam Studio Network.